Anyway, the first question is an easy one. Why is it so difficult to love ourselves? Can you share how to love and accept ourselves? First of all, lower your expectations of yourself. Because sometimes when we expect so much, all we ever do is find fault with ourselves. It's called the old fault-finding mind, the two bad bricks in the wall. And many of you weren't going to see my cave. The two bad bricks in the wall, it's in the monk's toilet, so you can't go there. So, one other thing is that we've never been encouraged to love ourselves. Even just when you were growing up, you were never good enough. You always had to improve. And you were at school and it wasn't good enough. You can always do better. You were at home and you were never good enough. Your friends always said, oh, you could do better as well, the peer pressure at school. And this is one of the problems that we forget to love ourselves, but you count too. So why it's difficult is because you've never been trained, you've never been expected, it's not part of the culture. And so because of that, we haven't learned how to love ourselves. And also people say it's very dangerous. If you love yourself, you get big-headed. But that's not true. If you love yourself, you get big-hearted. And that is my problem. I learned how to love myself, to care for myself, open the door of my mouth to everything you give. And so this, as I say, is not fat. Because you develop loving kindness to yourself for so many years. Every year, your heart grows a bit bigger. And you've heard this one before. My heart is so big now. And a long time ago, it pushed against my rib cage, can't go any further, so it goes down and out. It's the only place it can go. This is not fat, this is a big heart. So that's why sometimes it's not encouraged. So you're encouraged to love yourself, but it's not to think how great I am. Being a monk, you learn how to be humble. In fact, I am one of the most humble monks in the whole world. And I often say, what's the point of being humble if you can't tell anybody about it? That's just a joke, but loving yourself is just, I've always said, it's love, laugh, live. Those words are so close together. So you laugh at yourself. So one way how to love yourself. First meditation teacher taught me how to do this. When you wake up in the morning, he said, what's the first thing you do? Go to toilet. Yes, but in the bathroom, is there a mirror? You have mirrors in every one of your bathrooms. So tomorrow morning, stand in front of that mirror and smile at yourself. And I just told my first teacher, impossible. As a young man, sometimes, I used to take alcohol, and sometimes really tired. And you know what it's like when you first get up in the morning? You wouldn't dare to, oh crikey, I don't want to look at that. So he said, if you can't manage a natural smile, so you all have to join in now. 2 fingers, please. Side of the mouth, push up. Did that in front of the mirror. And I did that. This was true 2 years at least without sort of fail. I'd always go there, it doesn't matter how tired or depressed or upset or just miserable I felt. I could always look at myself in the mirror and put these 2 fingers to the side of my mouth and push up. And I saw this stupid young man making a face. And then the guy in the mirror smiled even more, and I smiled even more, and after a while I laughed at myself. For 2 years, every morning, I laughed at myself. It was beautiful training. It was just an expression of, and not taking myself so serious, loving myself. That is, again, what you learn from a mother. Mothers are brilliant. Sometimes, yeah, their son may be a thief, but he's no ordinary thief. He's the best thief in the whole of Perth. They're very proud of their children, no matter what they do. And it's something, they love their children unconditionally. So if you can look at that for yourself, that same sort of unconditional love, acceptance, that's a beautiful thing. So it's so difficult to love ourselves. We haven't really been taught, and how can you learn to love and accept yourself? That was where you get open the door of your heart from. Father took me aside. Son, wherever you go in your life, however you turn out, whatever you do, the door of my house will always be open to you. It was a small council flat in London. And so I didn't realise what he meant. It was only many years later, after he passed away, he realised what he meant was not his house, it was the door of his heart. It was always open. I was his son, and he'd accept me and love me no matter what I did. A blank cheque from your father. Whatever you want to do in life, you're my son. You can always come and stay with me any old time, no matter who you are. That was a very powerful realization. One of my best expressions of unconditional love. Love, acceptance with no strings attached, whoever you are. And what it did for me, it didn't say, oh, I can do anything now. I'd always, go and rob houses, I can turn out to be a terrorist, a tearaway, a sort of bank robber. I always got my father's house, he would always look after me. That's not how it works. When you love yourself and forgive yourself and accept yourself for who you are, you don't take advantage of that. You have this beautiful sense of a place where you can really grow. I have to live up to such love. So I turned out pretty good. I'd still tell bad jokes, but everyone's got their two bad bricks. and so what that really meant, you tend to accept yourself as you are. And of course, there's so many other teachings. Open the door of your heart as you are. You don't have to be perfect to be lovable. In fact, there's actually no Thai people on this retreat. My Thai used to be perfect. Ajahn Chah would ask me to translate for him. You go and give talks in Thai and get invited back again. But coming back here to Perth, you don't have as much chance to practice it, so you make silly mistakes sometimes. But the Thai people say, no, don't improve. Because it's lovable, they said. If they want to hear perfect Thai, they go and hear a Thai monk. But hearing it from a Western monk, it's like charming, it's cute. So you don't have to be perfect. And again, from that you get the simile of the trees in the forest. Find a perfect tree. If you find a perfect tree, it's not lovable at all. It's boring. You find your favourite tree in the forest and it's crooked and bent and brown leaves everywhere and branches hanging off. It's gorgeous. So the perfect trees are the most beautiful. They're not lovable. The crooked and bent ones are. So you're crooked and bent. That's why you're lovable. Do you understand? That's how you love yourself. By realizing you can. It's good. It's beneficial. You'll grow. And why not? You don't have to be perfect to be lovable. How do you choose what direction to take in your life? The direction you take in your life should always be the middle way. But be careful, because one who walks the middle path gets hit by traffic coming in both directions. So, be careful. How do you choose? It doesn't matter what direction. I already told you that this afternoon. The universe is round. So whichever direction you go, you come back to where you are. So, you just toss a coin. Heads, I ordain. Tails, I live the lay life and become a monk. So, that's what I used to say. Heads I win, tails you lose. That's fair enough. So no, what it really does, how do you choose what direction you take in your life? You don't choose, you're brainwashed. So life chooses you, which direction. And sometimes it becomes inevitable. You know, I never expected to be an abbot, teaching, living in a cave. I never chose that. It just happened. Sometimes I think, how did I get myself into this? And then there it is. So, the choices and these types of choices, which direction you should go, is not really important. Just whichever way, doesn't really matter. But what you do with it afterwards. People spend so much time worrying about whether to turn left or turn right. And by the time they do turn left or they do turn right, they're exhausted. So it doesn't matter, you turn left, you turn right. It's what you do after you make the decision. That is crucial. So make sure that once you made the decision, you give it everything you've got. And you make it right. No decision is inherently a good decision or a bad decision. It's what you do afterwards makes it a good decision or a bad decision. So just decide and just make it work. Just ordain and make it work. Dear Ajahn, last night you said letting go. People used to ask, what happened if everyone became a monk or a nun? Very difficult to answer a long time ago, but these days it's easy. Robots. You don't need anagarikas. I'm sorry, but anagarikas, your days are numbered. You soon get self-drive cars. You know, whatever lunch we want, we just sort of Google it in, and it gets delivered to our huts, you know, by a drone, drops straight down. And Dhamma talks, I don't need to travel to Singapore anymore. Soon I'll be sitting here in virtual reality. I'll just appear in the Buddhist fellowship, and you won't tell the difference between whether it's a real Ajahn Brahm or just what's it called? Hologram. So, you won't. It's so easy. You don't need people anymore. You can all become monks and nuns. Wouldn't it be wonderful? No excuses anymore. Dear Ajahn, last night you said letting go is a choice. The hell door is always open. Yeah, that's an important one. You can always forgive. You can always let go. So why not? If you want to forgive and let go, especially forgive yourself, which is why you put yourself in hell, sometimes people say, oh no, you've got to work through it. Oh, you must have remorse. You feel sorry. If you don't feel sorry, you'll do it again. It doesn't work that way. People who have remorse and made to feel guilty, they're the ones who keep repeating it. Because they're focusing on the negativity. They're focusing on why they did a bad thing, and they believe they're bad people. And because they're bad people, they keep repeating the mistakes. So, the hell door is always, you're always allowed to forgive. That's the first thing, to know you can forgive. You can love yourself. You don't need to keep punishing yourself. To know that you can do that. Because some religions say, oh, don't do that. Feel remorse, beat yourself up, do penances. Otherwise, you know that you will never get forgiven. We don't believe in penances here. What was it? The Anagarika years ago, he came to see me early one morning. He said, I feel terrible, I haven't slept all night. I feel so guilty. What have you done? He said, last night I was hungry. And I crept into the kitchen and I made myself a sandwich. No one was there. And I ate that sandwich. I'm terrible. Sorry. And I said, oh, okay, you know, you're forgiven. He said, what? You're forgiven, thank you for telling me. No, now you can go. What? You're not going to punish me? I said, no, we don't do punishments in Buddhism. You acknowledge, you forgive and learn. But I did actually give him some strategies. I said, it's amazing all the allowable things you can give to a monk or a nun in the evening. Sometimes when you see all the stuff you can eat in the evening, cheese, chocolate, honey, what else? A lot of stuff. Sugar, tea, what else? Cocoa. There's a lot of stuff you can eat in the evening. And so I said, look, if you really feel hungry, number one, eat more at lunchtime. To get yourself, eat not, pasta actually lasts a long time. Eat, if you're hungry in the afternoon, get some honey. Bears live on honey. You don't. Chocolate, that's, quite sustaining. So you've got all this stuff you can eat. So these are the stuff, don't have to make yourself a sandwich, okay? So just, helping you learn. So you don't have to break the rules again. Now you can go. He said, nope, I need to be punished. Because my character is, if you don't punish me, then, I will sort of do it again. And he was quite adamant. He wanted to be punished. Because that's what people feel like. They grow up in some of these traditions, and you make a mistake, you want to be punished. So really, okay, if you want to be punished, I said, I will give you an Australian punishment, because I was reading about the early history of Australia, and in those days, they used to give them the whippings with the cat of 9 tails. And I've just been reading about that. And so I told this guy, I said, okay, if you really want a punishment, I will give you the punishment of 50 strokes of the cat. And you should have seen this Anagarika's face. His jaw dropped and started quivering when you were afraid, and all the colour drained from his face. His face was wider than his clothes. Because, he really believed that Ajahn Brahm would whip him. And I said, that is not what I mean by 50 strokes of the cat. There were 2 cats at that time in the monastery. Find one of them and stroke it. 1, 2. Learn some kindness and compassion. That's your punishment. So when he could be kind to a cat, maybe the cat would teach him how to be kind to himself. So, if you haven't got a cat, get one of the teddy bears. 50 strokes of the teddy bear. Go and put it in and stroke it, and a nice teddy bear. So that was a punishment there. So that is actually how to open the door of the hell. You can free yourself anytime you like. Anytime you really feel, first of all you feel you can, then you have the strategies to do it, and then you're free. You do it once, you don't have to keep punishing yourself. You don't have to punish other people. Just acknowledge, forgive, and learn. So you don't need to do it again. So, being happy is also a choice. Being depressed is also a choice. Yeah, you don't have to be. So if I can be happy, if I really decide to be happy, yeah, but be happy being depressed. Be happy being sick. Be happy being miserable. You see that? See how we do this? Oh, depression is part of life. So if you are depressed, you can actually get many advantages of being depressed. You can sleep in the morning, you don't have to go to work, doctor will give you a certificate. You can eat special food, people will always be coming around to make sure you're okay. So if you are depressed, when you get better, don't tell anybody. Then you can enjoy your depression a bit longer. So when you enjoy depression, you're not depressed anymore, are you? Because depression is, I don't want to feel this way, I feel terrible, I feel awful. It's what we add to those feelings, that's the problem. So, make peace with your depression. Be kind to it. Be gentle with it. And it can't stand that. It just disappears pretty quickly. If you try to get rid of it, if you don't like it, that's the problem. Saying that, a lot of people feel guilty, feel stigmatized about being depressed. And that causes a little bit of a problem. So, enjoy it. Sometimes that, I felt a little bit, deprived. That I haven't been depressed. Oh, it's about time, that I get depressed. It's a good idea, because I'd miss out on all the advantages of I don't have to talk to people. I can be miserable. That's why this boy, he came to see me and he said, look, I feel that I don't fit into school. Because, all the other friends, their parents have all had divorces. And my parents are still together. I feel I'm missing out. I don't fit in. I'm odd. It's a really weird place we have these days. So, yeah, be happy whatever life gives you. You got a choice. When we used to have school dinners when I was young, even though it was a good school, the school dinners were terrible. But we had a choice, like it or lump it. Lump it means like you can like it or you can complain about it, but still that's all you have to eat. So it's wonderful when you're just happy with whatever comes. What is the purpose behind being silent for 8 or 9 days? Because a lot of times what comes out of our mouth is just rubbish. Come on, be honest about it. So being silent means, you don't have to talk to people. It makes life much more peaceful. And other people don't have to listen. Even you may be having a conversation, nothing to do with you, but you always think, are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? And also, if your mouth becomes silent, then that helps your head become silent too. It stops you actually thinking. So little by little, a little bit of restraint, not silent, not talking, makes you much more aware. And also, you have time to be aware of what's happening in your mind as well. So your mindfulness increases with silence. You know what happens sometimes in the old days? We used to do, the 9-day silence. The last day, I said, you can talk. And no one wanted to talk. They liked the silence so well. How to reduce our wanting. The opposite of wanting is appreciating contentment. So don't think what's missing, think what we have. Isn't it wonderful just to be here, nice and peaceful? Not the best food in the world, but it's good enough. It's probably really good. Yeah, it's not the best jokes in the world, but that's all you get. You know my reputation, so you signed up to this, so you can't complain. Not the best mind in the world, stupid old mind, but it's good enough. Not the best body in the world, but it's good enough. So it's wonderful when it's good enough. And you start to understand that when you want something, you can't appreciate what you already have. When you want something more, your mindfulness is going away from here and now, from appreciation and gratitude, onto something else. Wanting has no end, but contentment has an end. Right now, it's peace. And look, your happiest moments in your life, what made them happy? Just the people you were with. You didn't want to change anything. The place you were in, you didn't want to change anything. This is good enough. It's moments when you don't want anything. That's called contentment. That's happiest times in your life. Now, why want something to change all of that? To destroy happiness. Why aren't there any ghosts at Bodhinyana and Jhana Grove? Have you scared them all away? Seriously though, don't they want the metta? We give them metta. We give them metta at a distance. May all the ghosts be happy and well, but not here. No, it's like ghosts and any other spirits. Sometimes, they want metta, but you have to invite them in first of all, because when you meditate, you get like power. You get what was it, this woman, a Thai disciple many years ago, she invited her mother from Thailand to come and stay with her here in Perth because mother had no one to look after her. So she got one of these visas, your dependent relations visas. And so, she would bring her mother to the temple every now and again, but her mother soon got sick. And when she got sick, she took her to the hospital. And the Asian tradition is so wonderful. When your mother's in hospital, this Thai girl slept right next to her mother sort of day and night, looking after her. But then one day she thought, well, I wonder, is my mother going to survive this sickness, or what's going to happen? So she went to one of these mediums, these spirit doctors. It only cost $20. And the medium will go into a trance and leave her body and go into astral body. All she needed was the $20 and the address of the hospital, the ward number and the room number. And she'd leave her body and go in there and find out on the astral plane. So she went there, $20, she went unconscious, left her body and just went over there. She came back after about 10 minutes, and the first thing she did was give the $20 back. And the Thai, what do you mean? Couldn't you find my mother? Oh yeah, I found the ward all right. Found the hospital, found the ward, found the room, went there, but I couldn't get inside your mother's room. There was a big force field around. I couldn't penetrate it. Who the heck is your mother? And that's when the Thai girl said, oh, my mother's a Buddhist nun. She's been a Buddhist nun for about 40 years. At which point the medium snatched the $20 back. You wasted my time. You should have told me at the beginning. People like me can't get close to people like that. And those are the words. And I tell that anecdote because that's what works. If you keep your precepts, really good people, kind, peaceful, you get like a force field around you. No one can penetrate it, especially ghosts. They're scared of you. Not the other way around. Ghosts are scared of you. So that's how the monks chase them away. So that's why if they want to come in here, they have to ask permission first of all. And I always remember this other little story, anecdote. There was an old lady, she was actually a medium, a very good one. And she wanted to bring one of her friends who was an Aboriginal elder to come and visit Bodhinyana Monastery. And she never told me. She came and saw me, and then it was only afterwards, the next couple of days, she said, oh yeah, I brought this indigenous elder. I said, where was he? And I said, well, as soon as he came to the gate of Bodhinyana Monastery, he said, I had to get out of the car, I can't get into this place. And I scolded her and I said, you should have asked my permission first of all. That's all you need to do. Ask my permission, then he would have come in. But he was so sensitive, he realized power, energy is too great here, can't come in. So that's what happens. So you're perfect. But if you want a ghost to come in, I can invite them in for you. Just give me your room number. What is letting go of someone means? To stop thinking about the past that you shared, to stop caring and wondering how are they going off in time. But how do you actually let somebody go? It's to understand, especially when people die. Oh, how many times this has happened, that you go to somebody's bedside and they should be dead. Why are they still being alive? And the first time this happened was with, what was her name again? Forget now. But anyway, and a young nurse and a guy, Steve and Jenny and Steve. Jenny was a nurse. He was a United States citizen, but moved to Fremantle. And they had a whitewater rafting business. And really fit and healthy, but he got cancer really bad. So you're counselling him as he was dying. And I went there quite a few days, and he wasn't dead. And that was really surprising. Until, you were there and you just figured it out. And I went up to him and, told Jenny, said, Jenny, have you given Steve permission to die yet? She never answered me. She got it straight away. She jumped on the bed. It's one of these beautiful little moments you cherish. What real love is. She went up on the bed, kneeling on the bed. Her husband was so emaciated, all skin and bones, which is what happens sometimes when you have these bad cancers. Says, Steve, it's okay. I give you permission to die. You don't have to keep trying to live for me. I love you, I free you. And that night he died. That's all he needed. Because you can imagine, if that's you, and it's somebody you really love and care for, you just keep, the worst thing you want to do is to die and upset the people you love the most. That keeps you alive. Keeps you hanging on, even though your death is certain, it just prolongs the suffering. So you try that, and somebody really very, very sick in hospital, and just, their death is inevitable, but it's just that to keep sort of hanging on. You just say, no, it's okay, I give you permission to die, it's all right. We love you enough to free you. We don't want to see you in pain. Let go. And it's amazing just how that works, and they die pretty quickly, because they're just holding on, because they don't want to hurt you. That's what letting go means. That's why it's a great act of love. And your kids, your mother and father, they love you very much, but they let you come here to Jhana Grove. Do you know what your husband's up to while you're here? What's he doing? You trust people, so you let them go. And if you let them go, they always come back again. But if you control them, then once they're free, they never come back. So that's actually how we let go of someone. Doesn't mean we don't love them and care for them. We care for them so much, we give them freedom. Instead of being a control freak. I saw a video of Satguru, a yogi from India, teaching third eye focus. Is it advisable to put attention there or at the nose? I have 4 eyes. That's what they call them, 4 eyes with glasses. No, you don't need to do that, because if you focus and use force, you will find you just get tense. So, instead, as I mentioned this morning, and I'll mention this later on as well, just how you get awareness of the breath or awareness of something else, just you let go, you get relaxed and peaceful, and eventually the mind naturally focuses on where it needs to focus. Don't force it, otherwise it's controlling, and you just get tired. Why is it so difficult to be happy, especially if you live in Singapore? Why it's not difficult to be happy in Singapore? I stay in Singapore and I'm happy there. So sometimes it's because people are chasing success. And they forget what success really means. What is success anyway? And who is the wealthiest person in this room? You're trying to borrow some money or something. You want a loan? I freely give you my happiness. So when I was young, people said, oh, you be successful, pass your exams, make a lot of money, have a big house, be a celebrity, then you'll be happy. And I thought you had to be successful and work hard for happiness. You saw people work really, really hard, they weren't happy. Even people, one of the nice things about going to Cambridge, you met all these incredible people, like world-class cricket stars. That was Majid Khan. And he was like international playing for Pakistan, brilliant. There was lords, counts, who had their big mansions somewhere. They weren't happy. You met Nobel Prize winners. They were miserable. And I say, well, does success lead to happiness? And then later on, you read Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence. No, happiness leads to success. You find a job where you really like doing. You're really motivated on it. Very, very good. And then you find that that's not true either. So, where's the solution? And then one day, you understood. Happiness is not the path to success. Happiness is success. So if you are happy, you're successful. You've made it. You've arrived, baby. You've arrived. That's what happiness is. So happiness is success. So every time you're happy, congratulations, you're successful. That changes. So can people, if you're looking for success, it's always up in the future somewhere or in the past, or when life was really good. Before I became an abbot and a teacher, when I had no responsibilities, when I didn't have to worry about this and think about that. Oh, life was so, no, oh, that's just, happiness doesn't live in the past, nor does it live in the future. So when you are happy, you're successful. You'd be happy with anything. So I think the real answer, why is it so difficult to be happy, especially when you live in Singapore? Because Ajahn Brahm doesn't visit enough. So I have my clones. 2 clones over there. And other clones coming up. What does Buddhism say about those who committed suicide? Do they get reincarnated to lower forms, or can they be reincarnated as higher beings and higher forms? Please clarify. Okay, to clarify, just you don't judge a life by how it ended. You judge the whole life, not just by its ending. So there was this, it was about this time, quite a few years ago, because this time in Perth, actually all over Australia, children are doing their end-of-year exams, especially the pre-university exams, grade 12s. And some kids have such a lot of stress this time of the year. And there's one kid, it was about this time, got enough things to worry about as it is. They arrived one evening over in Bodhinyana Monastery, and I'm really stressed out, big time stressed out, because they'd woken up that morning and their son, they found on the veranda at the end of a rope. He'd hung himself, committed suicide. And they were devastated, as you could probably imagine. No sign at all of any problems. They'd been with the police all day, checking out school and friends. It was just unpredictable, as many suicides are. People actually don't tell you. But actually, that there was this, you've got to be very careful on this one. There was this psychologist at one of the recent Australia Sangha Association meetings about depression and suicide. And it said if someone's really, really depressed and very miserable, and then suddenly they're happy, many people say, oh, great, they're free now. They say that's a danger sign. Because sometimes they're depressed and upset, because, they don't, should I, shouldn't I, and when they make the decision, that's the tension of, they're going to commit suicide. Then that gives them a little bit of happiness. So be careful. When someone looks, been depressed for a long time, then suddenly they're happy. Just like, I'm happy now. The danger sign. But anyway, we had one of our caretakers in Nollamara once, Phil his name was, and he decided to just spend a bit of time by himself, so he moved over to a country town, had a shed, and didn't have many people to talk to, so one day he decided to hang himself. And he went into the shed, he tied the rope to the rafter, made a noose, a chair, sit on and just kick the chair out from underneath him. Had it all prepared. Went into the caravan to actually start writing out the suicide note. His mistake was he had the radio on. And as he was writing out the suicide note, who was being interviewed on the radio? But this Ajahn Brahm, yeah. And as soon as he heard my voice, he said, oh no, I can't even commit suicide without this monk intervening. so he just untied the noose and just came and told me. He's laughing his head off when he was telling me this. So if you do feel a bit depressed, please turn the radio on. But anyway, this kid, because he was doing these exams, I used that as a simile. Said, how many exams, how many subjects would your son have been taking? He said, I think it was 4, in Australia. Okay, how many papers in each exam? Maybe 2 in each, that's 8 exams he has to sit. How many questions in each paper? Well, maybe average about 10. So that's 80 questions he has to answer to get to university. What would happen if 79 questions were absolutely perfect answers, and the last question, the 80th one, he really messed up and made a very bad answer? 79 out of 80. Would that mean he can't go to university? 79 out of 80 is a pretty good score. He'd probably go to any university he wanted to. So I said, do you understand what I'm talking about? Your son was a very good son. He's very kind, respectful, did a lot of good things. 79 of the first questions he answered in life, he answered perfectly. Now he made a mess of the last one. Does that mean he can't enter heaven or get a good rebirth? When you put it that way, it was again the same thing about the 2 bad bricks on the wall. Sometimes we focus on mistakes so much. Focus on not the whole life that person lived, but just on how it ended. And that's really unfair, illogical, that's unreasonable. A life is judged not by its ending, but by how it's been lived. You don't go to university because you answered the last question correctly. It's all the other questions you answered. They count too. And actually they went back really happy. Not really happy, but no, at least they knew. Because it's really awful. It's really sadistic, I say. I'll use that word carefully. Parents are suffering so much, they've unexpectedly lost one of their children. And then, please excuse me, some idiot monk or nun, not knowing whether they're going to go to hell, killing yourself is bad, or some priest. That really is not rubbing salt into the wounds, it's rubbing chili pepper into the wounds. Jalapeno, that's the hottest, isn't it, jalapeno? But anyway, into the wounds. That is really unfair, and it's also inaccurate. It doesn't work that way. So you judge a life by not how it ends, by how it's been lived. Dearest Ajahn Brahm, dearest? Does your partner know this? A worm doesn't remember his past lives. Why are you saying his? No, there are female worms as well. How can it get out of this lower animal realm? It doesn't have ability to learn Dhamma. How do you know? Have you ever been a worm? So, sometimes that we underestimate the intelligence of animals. That cat, I asked that Anagarika to stroke. That was one of the smartest animals I've ever known. And if you live in Perth, you'll understand this story, because it was born in a log in Bodhinyana monastery. That's where we found it. It was a little kitten, and it was very lovable, and so the monks just got quite attached to it, including me. And then, but cats they eat birds and all sorts of other little animals in the forest. They don't really belong in the Australian forest. You see the kangaroos, all these other parrots are just so trusting. They don't really have any predators. So the little cats come in, they just reduce everything. So after a while, I said, okay, we have to find this cat a home in the city. So we found a nice person who's willing to accept it, and that was in the suburb of Watermans, which is to the north of Perth by the beach. And I take responsibility for my decisions, so I said, okay, I arranged for a nice place for it to go, so I caught the cat. And you feel so guilty, just the cat who trusted you. You put it in a sack and tied it up and put it in the place in the back of the car where your feet go. Couldn't see out the window. I actually felt quite miserable about that. Just people trust you, and that's what. You have to have loving kindness for the birds as well. So off it went into Watermans, and the lady there, Chris, she kept it in the bag. So when she arrived at her house, in the bag, took it into the house, and then released it in the house. And she kept the doors locked for 3 days. So the cat had to stay in the house, thinking that the cat would forget, where it lived, and afterwards get used to the new house. She was a very kind woman. But after 3 days, she let the door open so the cat could play in the garden, and that cat ran for the gate really fast. Chris ran after it and couldn't keep up. So she got in her car and started searching for it. Couldn't find it. So after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, she came back. It was a weekend. I was on duty at our city centre in Nollamara. It's about 8 kilometres from Watermans. And she rang and said, "I'm terribly sorry, Ajahn Brahm, but it's actually about 2 hours afterwards she rang up. Terribly sorry, Ajahn Brahm, but Kit Kat, the name of the cat, escaped. And I've been looking for it all this time. I can't find it anywhere." And that's when what do you think that cat did? Try and find its way back to Serpentine, where it lived. It's never been in the city, in the metropolitan area, ever in its life before. But I told her, it's much smarter than that. That's a very smart cat. I said, "You don't need to worry because it's with me in Nollamara." About 10 minutes earlier, I was passing by the front door and heard meowing outside. I opened it. It was this damn Kit Kat. How she managed to get there? 2 hours, crossing a freeway, no GPS, couldn't ring up the RAC, couldn't ask directions from a policeman. 8 kilometres in 2 hours, almost like a straight line. And how it knew that city centre's location. Now that is really impressive. And this poor little Kit Kat, it was a very hot summer's day, and her paws were just really hot. Poor thing. And so I just gave it bowl after bowl after bowl of milk, which she just to rehydrate. And then there was that time was Ajahn Jacaro was the abbot, and so it went onto Ajahn Jacaro's seat and weed all over it. But you could do it. And I just said, "Okay, I'm sorry, Kit Kat." From that time on, I'm sorry, birds and possums and everything else. You've earned your place. If we do take you away, you'll come back anyway. So we took her back again. And so she died over here some years ago. In a very, very smart cat. The most intelligent cat. But how do you do that? How many of you, if I dumped you someplace in Perth, could find your way without GPS, iPhones, without talking to anybody, to our city centre in 2 hours? That was just amazing. So animals are intelligent. So worms? Who knows? You mentioned marriage is suffering. Well, it's not always suffering. The 3 rings of marriage? Remember the 3 rings of marriage? What is it? No, I'm going to turn the other way around now. It's it's caring, sharing, and offering. The 3 rings of marriage. Caring, sharing, and offering. Otherwise I get in trouble if I don't put the other side of the story in. So it can be, sometimes one reason, why is it that people like religious people to actually officiate at weddings? Why does, you get monks, especially monks and nuns who've never been married? What do we know about marriage? Or Catholic priests who've been celibate, what do they know? You always want them, because there's something about marriage which is spiritual. And what is it? It's because there's a lot of sacrifice and letting go to actually live with another person. It's not about you anymore. It's a bigger picture. There is a letting go happening. As I often say to people who get married, when you get married, you can't think of yourself anymore. When you get married, you must not think of your partner either. I love that when you see this new bride and say, from now on you mustn't think of him. And then the groom, from now on you mustn't think of your wife. And they get really, there's a good word for this in English called bamboozled. It doesn't really come from bamboo, but it means just you totally just don't know what this crazy monk is saying. And then I say the answer is, when you get married, you mustn't think of yourself, you mustn't think of your partner, you must only think of us. The third way, you're married, you're together. So it's not my fault anymore, it's not her fault, it's not his fault, it's always our fault. We can work it out together. So there's something wise and spiritual there, a letting go of your ego for something bigger. It's not about me anymore. It's not about him or her. It's about us. That's why I really sort of object to this idea, Hinayana Mahayana. Hinayana, about my enlightenment, my practice, my meditation, and being a bodhisattva, serving and looking after everybody. Your meditation is more important than mine. So I make sure you're all happy and well before I even meditate. One is thinking about others. The other one is thinking about yourself. Both are wrong. There's no such thing about a selfish arahat or a sacrificial bodhisattva. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us. We're in it together. A different way of looking. So anyway, mental marriage is suffering. Yeah, it depends. But if we're already married, yeah. Well, yeah, it's your choice. Don't blame me. Don't blame your husband. Don't blame your wife. Also, can't leave lay life to become a monk or nun. Why not? Can you share tips for us in this situation, please? Thank you. You always make the best of what you've got. So marriage is a lot of sacrifice. So remember, it's not about me, not about her. It's all about us. So, you don't have this selfish ego anymore. And anyway, if you want to be, can I say this about, Burr is a very wise woman. Because she comes here and just stays here however long she wants. Now she's over in Dhammasara Monastery. Because she made sure she was a terrible cook. So her husband does all the cooking in the house. So, when she goes, he doesn't really miss her that much. Please don't quote me on this. Please delete this from the tape. I get in big trouble. So it gives a lot of freedom. So don't make yourself indispensable. Otherwise you're trapped for life. So anyway, but no. So it's her karma, so she's going to give a lot. If you're married, then just, be at least committed anyway. Because otherwise, sometimes people come to me and they say that they're young, they want to become a monk, and so they've got kids. I say, how old are your kids? Oh, 6 or 7. And they say, what about looking after your kids? Oh no, there's somebody else can look after them. So people are irresponsible like that will never make a monk. If you're not sort of going to have some compassion and do your duties to your family, how can you do your duties as a monk? So there was, I forget the main name of the Burmese monk, but he wanted to become a monk, but he was a poor villager. It was Sunderland, was it? Yeah. And he decided to work really hard, live very simple, save up the money, until he had enough money that his kids had left home and his wife was well endowed to be able to survive on all the money he saved. And that's when he became a monk, making sure that he was responsible to his family commitments first. And once he'd done that, apparently his progress once he ordained was so incredibly fast. Was it a year or something? It was, fully enlightened. And the monks couldn't believe that. How can you make it so fast? And they found out that while he was saving up money, preparing for his ordination, he was doing such a lot of practice, being very simple, selfless, mindful, kind. So as a layperson, he got all the momentum together, and so as soon as he became a monk, whoosh, really fast. What does Buddhism say about dreams? It means you're sleeping too much. Now you can't sort of... Does dream mean anything of importance? Sometimes it does. There was one of the disciples years ago. He dreamt of these, the 5 angels. 5 angels in his dream, and every angel had his 5 pots of gold. And they lined up to give him pot of gold, another pot of gold, 25 pots of gold worth a fortune. And when he received the last pot of gold, you know what it's like, that's when you wake up in a dream. And it was such a vivid dream that he woke up and he was actually looked in his bedroom for the angels and the pots of gold. He didn't mind the angels not being there, but he was disappointed there was no gold in the room. It was just a dream. But when he went down for breakfast, he was surprised that morning his wife had made him 5 boiled eggs with 5 pieces of toast. What's with this number 5? And when he picked up the morning newspaper, it was the 5th of May, the 5th day of the 5th month. And so he thought that something is trying to tell him something. So he looked into the sports section, the horse racing. And there's a horse racing course here in Perth, named after the famous course in England, Ascot. A-S-C-O-T, 5 letters. So he looked in the 5th race that afternoon, and he couldn't believe his eyes. The 5th horse on the 5th race was called 5 Angels. You only get these omens once at all, if you ever get them at all in your life. So he decided not to tell his wife, but take afternoon off work, and at lunchtime he went to the bank to keep the lucky number 5. He drew out $5,000. You don't waste these magic omens. And he went to the racetrack, these bookmakers, the windows, he chose a 5th one in line, put $5,000 to win on horse number 5, race number 5, 5 Angels. He knew the lucky number 5 could not be wrong. The lucky number 5 wasn't wrong. His horse came in 5th. I told that story many times. It's in the book. It's a really good one, isn't it? That's what dreams are. Sometimes they're even more accurate than that. There's one of the people who still see him every now and again. He's getting a bit old now. He married a Singapore. He was in the British Army. He was a dental technician in Singapore. So he's met the girl of his dreams, a nice girl from Singapore, from what's the place? Where the Thai temple is in. No. Sorry, the other one, which is just to the north. Palalai, yeah, just around there. What's that suburb called? Badok, yeah, from Badok. She was from Badok area. And so they came and migrated to Perth. And, just had to go and visit the relations. And he was just really bored, that his wife and his sisters and brothers were chatting in Chinese. He couldn't understand a word of what they were saying. And the brothers, his brothers-in-law, took pity on him and said, "We're going to the racetrack this afternoon. Do you want to come?" Anything to get out of the house. So he said, yeah. So he went along with them. He's not a gambling man. But before they went to the racetrack, they went to a lucky temple to offer some joss sticks for good luck. And when they went into this temple, they didn't say where it was, that it was so filthy that all of them, including, his name was Gus, don't mind telling him, and all of them decided to clean up, the temple, sweep it, dust it, wash it. That was really important. Not just lighting incense, but doing some good karma. And then they went to the racetrack that afternoon. They all lost. But that night, Gus had a dream. He dreamt of a horse at the Singapore racetrack winning. And when he woke up, he remembered the name of the horse. And when he looked at the Straits Times, the horse racing that day, that horse, that name was running that day. So he rang up his brother-in-laws and said, "Let's go to the racetrack this afternoon. We lost yesterday, but last night in my dream, I remember the name of the horse, and then I won in my dream, and it's running this afternoon." And you know what his brothers-in-law said? "Look, that was a Singapore temple. That was a Chinese spirit. They wouldn't tell an Ang Mo the name of a horse. They'd tell us first of all." Ang Mo is like Westerner. So they didn't go. He went by himself. And he put a lot of money on that horse, and it won. And so when he went back, his brothers-in-law, they were just so upset. They were just so angry. Not at him, but these Chinese spirits. They look after Ang Mo's, and they never look after themselves. It's really unfair. Why did they come in our dreams? Why do they come in your dreams? This is really unfair. So, sometimes we have dreams we don't know what it means. So be careful. If you dream of 5 angels, maybe. But anyway, so no self sounds nihilistic. How is it not? We come across that later on, where you find out that it's not. You can't say nothing exists. You can't say there is something. It's in between again, not eternalistic, not nihilistic, a process. And you'll come across that many times in the next few days. So I'll just pass that for a few moments. How do we stay in the now and strive for goals? What are you striving for goals for? We haven't done any talks about walking meditation, but maybe tomorrow. When you do walking meditation, the main point of the walking meditation, you start at one end, you go to the other end, you turn around, you come back again, you end up where you started. What are your goals in life anyway? You start off with no teeth, you end up with no teeth. You start off with nappies, and you end up with nappies. Where do you get to in life? All the studies, everything you've learned, you forget it after a while when you get dementia. So we did actually a dementia, was part of a conference we did in Brahm Center, and I got very worried because people actually, I think they said the signs of dementia are that you can't remember the past, you don't worry about the future, and you get socially disengaged. And I said, well, that's a monk. And I've been years teaching people to do this. You can't remember people's names, and people haven't got their names. There's just 5 khandhas, just all these designations. It's just conventional reality. Get real. So the monks are probably the main cause of people getting dementia. I always keep it funny. So how do now strive for goals? You don't strive for goals. You've already arrived. You've arrived, baby. You've arrived. Where do you need to go? You're here in Jhana Grove. You planned for a lot of time getting here, and now you want to go somewhere else. Another goal. Just be here. We want the best for our families. Sometimes the best for your families is getting out of the way, and so you're here. Isn't it wonderful? Your families are so happy you're not on their backs anymore. I'm sure the monks are very happy that I'm over here, not sort of on their case every time. Well, even your kids. How many times, I said this to someone today in the interviews, how many times I was teaching meditation and a middle-aged woman comes up and says, I never really felt like coming to meditation today, my kids sent me. What do you mean your kids sent me? They said, Mummy, you're going to meditation today? And the mum said, no, I'm too tired. Mummy, you must go to meditation. No, I just want to relax. Mummy, go to meditation tonight. Why, darling? Because you're a much nicer mummy when you come back from meditation. So even with husbands, if your husbands are getting a bit cranky, send him to the meditation retreat for 9 days, and he'll come back new and improved. It's like you send your car in for a service. So you have to have a service every, 5-year service for a car, whatever, 500 kilometers. So if you've got a wife, and she's getting a bit sort of, makes a bit of noises here and there, and just squeaking and not really running properly, then send her to the monastery for service. That was when they're young, they're still under warranty. But if you remember the Bodhinyana or BF, then it's warranty guaranteed, so you can send them no cost. We want the best for our families, our firms, ourselves. How do we do both, please? So easy. Stay in the present moment. Ajahn Brahm, during meditation, when everything is quiet and peaceful, something blue or golden, dancing lights appear. If it's blue or golden, it's probably a police car. You don't ignore anything, you just let it be. So you don't control it, you don't choose, just see what happens. Just confirm that letting go is a process, like you might let go for short periods or temporarily, but you keep picking up until eventually you let go for good. Exactly. You find out what's doing the picking up. It's your sense of self. But I'll go into that later on. If we don't sort out negative relationships in this life, we will encounter the same people in the next life. Not necessarily. You don't need to sort things out, you just let them go. Because if you keep focusing on the negativity in relationships, the law of attraction, you get the same problems next time. The same. You think it's your ex? They're coming back again. So, no, letting go is so you don't sort out negative relationships, you understand them. You learn from them. So you transcend them. Oh, somebody, I should remember this, they said a nice simile for life. You go down a street, you're not really paying any attention, and you fall in a sewer. So you get rescued. So the next time you walk down the same street and you're mindful this time, but you still fall down the same sewer, in the manhole. The way I call it manhole, it should be a person hole or whatever. Anyway, you fall in there and in the sewer. Because you are mindful, but you're not wise. And the next time you walk down the same street, you're mindful and wise, so you walk around the sewer. And the final stage is you don't walk down the street, you go another way. So that's how we learn from things in life. You don't fall in the same pits anymore. They're said to be monks having the ability to read other people's minds. Do they intrude our privacy when we are in a monastery by reading our minds? Did Buddha allow this? You allow it, but look, my view on this is you read one people's minds and you never want to read them again. You know, have you ever read like a bad novel? Pulp Fiction, just a stupid low-class romance? So honestly, realistically, who would read your mind? If you've got an interesting mind, fair enough. Will there be karma for bad thoughts, jealousy, ill will, etc.? They arise but did not get actioned upon. No, if they don't get actioned upon, you just learn from them, then they're not really karmically powerful. Are there other beings in samsara? Is it all just consciousness, mental phenomena arising and passing away, not self, just an illusion? Yeah, of course there are. Oh, it's page 2, where's page 1? There you go. I remember you once said there is no one here and there are no others. What did you mean by this? Are others and the self just mental fabrications? No, others are the people who bring my breakfast to me. And they better be there tomorrow morning. Yeah, of course. No, there are others and the oneself, but it's just that's the way we look at life. But, you know, when they say other beings and ourselves, it's pretty much the same. As I said, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, but enlightened beings are from Earth. That's profound, isn't it? It means you don't understand what I'm talking about, so it must be profound. Dear Ajahn, would you come on, please? We can love others only to the extent we love ourselves. Exactly. There's no difference between you and others. If you hate yourselves, you hate other people. How many times people criticize you, and it's because they do the same themselves? It's a problem in themselves, and so they project it onto others. So if you love yourself, open the door of your heart to yourself. That's how you can open the door of your heart to others. Simple. Or can we love beyond limit, regardless? Beyond limit? I suppose so, yeah, because the loving kindness has got no boundaries. Apamana, sometimes we call it, what is it called? Infinite loving kindness. I see the former so much, I would appreciate your thoughts. See the former? No, both. We love others, to the extent we love ourselves. You can't too. We can love beyond limit, regardless. No, you have to love everything. Could you tell us about how the Darling Scarp was once adjoined to the Himalayas? Do you think the previous Buddhas may have walked here? Exactly. Why is it that in all of Australia there are no monasteries like Dhammasara Nuns Monastery? People have tried in Melbourne and Sydney and Queensland. Bigger population, richer, more Buddhists. Why here in Western Australia? Why have we got Bodhinyana Monastery, really successful monastery? Jhana Grove. What's special about this place? And the answer is that it's known in the theory of the shifting tectonic plates. This place here was adjoined to the west coast of India. Gondwana land it was called. And that is accepted fact from geology. Even the rocks underneath where you're sitting are the same type you find in the west coast of India. This place was part of India. And Siddhartha Gautama was not the first Buddha. There were many Buddhas before that, when India and West Australia were together. So, who knows? Maybe Kassapa the Buddha and the great disciples did walk on the land where you are now sitting. Ooh. But I'm sorry, fellows and ladies, there's no evidence that Singapore was part of India. Anyway, it's interesting. Part of that is true. When meditating, someone around keeps moving and fidgeting, thus unmindfully creating noises. I'm sorry, was that me? It's natural. Ajahn Chah kept on saying, it's not the sound disturbs you, it's you who disturb the sound by expecting everybody not to fidget. And I just said a few moments ago, we obviously criticize other people for what we do ourselves. So if you think other people fidget, it's because you're probably a fidgeter. What you're aware of in others is usually a problem in yourself. So be careful. But if that doesn't work, if you want them to be absolutely still, then use straitjacket. You put them in a straitjacket, that'll keep them still. No, we can't do that. So instead, have what we call mudita, this beautiful sympathetic joy. I'm so happy that person sitting next to me is able just to meditate here. Yes, they're moving around, they're fidgeting, but that's the best they can do. And I'm so wonderful that they can actually be here. I got this when I gave a retreat at this place in Sydney. There was, first evening, question box was full of the same question. Can you please ask people to breathe quietly during meditation? Because this one gentleman was breathing really loudly through his mouth. And so I made the announcement that that gentleman has got a huge tumour in his nasal passage. He checked in with me beforehand, and he said that doctors have given up on me. I only just got a few weeks to live, and just meditating just in case this might work. And as soon as I said that, the reason why the person was making such a noise, no one complained at all. I had such kindness and compassion for this gentleman who was trying to meditate to save his life. He just couldn't breathe quietly. He was really sick. Nice part of the story is at the end of the retreat, when I was getting in my car, he said he had to come and talk to me. He said, the last meditation, it's always the last meditation, so don't give up hope. The last meditation is always the best, when you just don't try anymore. So the last meditation, he said, he was meditating there, breathing through his mouth, and he said he heard a popping sound. And he could breathe through his nose. This was not imagination. The air was actually going through his nose. Lasted only a minute, and then the tumour closed up again. But it actually gave him a bit of encouragement. When he came to say that to me, I was just getting in the car to get back to Sydney to catch a flight back to Perth. I thought, nah, you left it too late. I think just like, you can't do your homework just the night before the exam. Should have learnt meditation beforehand. But then, the nice ending was giving a talk somewhere in Sydney, and this gentleman came up and said, do you remember me? And don't ask that question. Sometimes I give these talks in Sri Lanka, 10,000 people. I said, oh yeah, I was at that talk at BMICH. Do you remember me? I was like, come on, 10,000 people. I said, well, but we remember you. Yeah, I was giving the talk. But he came up, do you remember me? I said, no. That's the trouble. If you ask me, I'll be honest. I say no. And people get a bit offended that way. They say, no, I'm a monk at your monastery. Oops. No, that's somebody exaggerating. But this guy came up and said, do you remember me? I said, no. He said, I was that guy. I carried on meditating, following instructions. The tumor disappeared and vanished. Perfect remission. He said, I'm spending the rest of my time now just teaching meditation like you taught me. This is a beautiful story. Absolutely true. And so, I often tell that story. If somebody is making a noise, they're trying their very best. That's the best they can do. So let them be that way. The other little story was over in our Nolamara temple. This lady came one evening. As I taught her, I should have made announcements first of all. During the meditation, she lay down, pointing her feet at the Buddha, and started snoring. And after she made a couple of minutes of snoring, people next to her just shook her to wake her up. So you're disturbing our meditation. And so I gave the talk that evening. I said, never do that again. Because that woman, she talked to me earlier, she was a victim of horrendous domestic abuse. She came to the temple because she felt safe. And she hadn't slept for days, terrified of what her husband might do. And she came to a safe place. And what did her body do? Lay down and catch up on some sleep. She needed that. And afterwards, when I told that story, it changed the whole atmosphere there. Oh, please, sleep down, have a pillow. So when you understand kindness, compassion, if someone is fidgeting, they're shaking because they're cold, get a blanket for them. Say, it's okay, please do that. Kindness. If they lay down because they're tired, just get a pillow for them. Be kind, compassionate. And that means that, we have a much better attitude. And we get very peaceful that way. So, that's actually what we're doing. They make a noise, but it's not the noise disturbs you. You disturb the noise. Just don't worry about it. If for some reason they need to make some sound. So be kind to it. So, that's a beautiful part of Buddhism. So, we have this kindness, compassion. Then your meditation takes off and so does this. Okay, I rushed those last questions because it's almost 9:30. So, hope you enjoyed it. If not, tough luck. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.